pleased to see what we have on offer, how many different types of experts are here. And you can see the other aspects of a life in sport, a career in sport. So generally, I just want to say welcome. In agreement with our dean, I want to say greetings from the university, from the faculty, and from the school. And I wish you great food for thought. Enjoy this session, and God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lam. And of course, it is a real pleasure to be at UTech and working with the team also that is there. Of course, I just want to say a big up to the staff members of the Caribbean School of Sports Sciences, and of course, by extension, the support that the faculty plays through the dean, vice dean, and other members of school and other units within the faculty. As we're not just the school, but we have supporting units also within the faculty. So big up to everybody. It's really a team effort, as the faculty motto says, solving the problems, keeping the vibes. So we intend always to keep our vibes, but we are solving the issues at hand, national and otherwise. So big up to our vice dean. Thanks for your greetings. And of course, it is my pleasure now to big up my immediate boss. Of course, she's going to be our next speaker, our presenter. Of course, this is Dr. Winter Adams. And of course, it is also a pleasure to be working as a part of a team, as Dr. Winter Adams ably drives the bus, drives the vehicle, that we are really operating. And it is really a pleasure to be a part of the team, to be contributing as well in that regard. So Dr. Adams, without further ado, the floor is yours.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Garrix. I'm driving the bus. Every time I hear driving the bus, I remember that famous song, Driver. All right, let me start from the beginning of this presentation. Let me just close out this. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes, we are.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm trying to get rid of this thing. Okay. Get rid of this completely. So good morning, everyone. I'm pleased to tell you of the offerings from the Caribbean School of Sports Sciences. And what am I seeing this? Okay. So we are the Center of Excellence, a Center of Excellence in Sports Science Education. As you see here with all our graphics, we're doing all sorts of things. Let me minimize this so I can truly talk to you properly. And maneuver my screen now that is giving me issues. We're just showing you a little synopsis of what we do in terms of our research and technology. These are our students here, ably showing our guests what we can do in terms of technology with sport. As was previously said, we have heard extensively about the practical side of it and the production side of it in terms of producing world-class athletes like Usain Bolt, Shelly Ann Fraser-Price, but nobody talks about the underground work that goes into it in terms of other careers out of it. So you see the athlete, but we want you to understand for the athlete to get there, there must be support staff, and that's what we do. So the Caribbean School of Sports Sciences is the first university-level sports academic center in Jamaica and the region, as Dr. Hilton said. Our focus is to produce high-quality graduates who are trained as athletic trainers, coaches, and sports managers. And when you hear athletic trainers, you're saying, what is that? It's a new career option for us in Jamaica. And, we are big in terms of creating new things. So we want to do that, and we want to also advance research. Our brand statement for the university to produce work-ready graduates. And when we say work-ready, we're talking about persons who can fit right away into career structures already in organizations, but also where other universities are just catching up. UTech has always pioneered the ability to give students the opportunity to make something for themselves. Entrepreneurship has always been part of the UTech model. And so now that other universities locally and regionally are now getting into that, we are ahead of the game. Our graduates that cannot not just fit into a work structure, but they are able to create their own opportunities. So we have graduates who are equipped to train and to manage world-class athletes. Our vision is to be an international acclaimed center of excellence in sports sciences, producing high quality research and multifaceted graduates with high levels of competencies for sports sciences locally, regionally, and internationally. There are certain principles that we hold very dear: research, teaching, service, team spirit, all through the development of sports. And we want to build the character for those persons who come to us. It's not just about giving you a career that you can go and make some money. We want to know that when you do things, people know and say, ah, this person was trained at UTech. They have character, they're respectful, they have integrity, they're honest. We want that. And so we not only just teach you, is it book and pencil anymore? We not just teach you, we build character. We want you to change lives. So, for instance, I'm just tickling your interest right here. So, in everything, especially when we are now online, we have to do all sorts of things to engage our students. So I will give them rebuses, and I say, for instance, you see the 4 in the stance here, so for instance, we want to produce graduates who are a cut above the rest. It's too funny for words that I've introduced rebus in the middle of my presentation. So let us go back to square one. Now you think about it. There is big money in sports. When you look at it, the world, the UNESCO has thought about it in terms of saying for 2030, let us use sport as one of the ways to get sustainable development. When we look at it for Jamaica, sport in terms of the contribution, no, with not putting any work in it, is contributing about 2.6% of our gross domestic product. We're talking about direct earnings of 44.5 million US dollars from our 204 elite athletes.
Pardon me, Doc, pardon me.
Yes?
We're not seeing the slide, please.
You're not seeing the slide? Oh.
Yes.
Okay. Let me stop share.
Nothing.
Let me share again.
Go PowerPoint mode, yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me go. So sorry about that. After I went through more, I have to go back to that because I spent a lot of time that. I'm from. Okay. So
okay.
There I was showing you, and you weren't seeing what I was seeing. You must have been wondering what was that. So I was saying that we put rebuses in our presentations online to get the boredom out of it. So there I am creating my rebus for you. And I'm saying, for instance, we want to create graduates who are a cut above the rest. It's too funny for words that I've introduced a rebus in my presentation. So I'm going back to square one. I'm saying to you now that without putting too much effort in it, that we have made so much money out of sport, making a contribution of 2.6% of our gross domestic product, about $44.5 million US dollars from the direct earnings from 204 of our elite athletes. And we're thinking about it in total earnings, we're thinking about 225 million US dollars. And this is from 2009. We've earned much more. Now, when you think about it in terms of these are just elite athletes have support staff that they have to be paid, they have to make money. So where do you see yourself in this? Where can you get a slice of the pie? The pie is quite large, and we're only asking for a slice for sport. We have to think beyond the ordinary. So I know in terms of parents, you're thinking your children, the typical thing, lawyer, doctor, Indian chief. We've reached a stage now where you're graduating about 300 doctors a year because of increase. And I remember when my friend's daughter graduated, and we always thought of medicine as such this wonderful career that you can make a lot of money. But she had to move back home because you're no longer getting enough sessions to make a lot of money. We have to think of where we can make an input and get a good income and to get something that we enjoy and can sustain ourselves. So now there's a deficit of support staff trained in the theoretical and practical application of sports sciences within Jamaica and the wider region. We've already established the success of Usain Bolt. Now we need to put on that level the success of the trainers of UTEC, of Usain Bolt. So there you have your tree. And we are saying to you that when you come to us, we're going to train in terms of biomechanics, anatomy, and physiology. We're doing the methodology of teaching sport and physical fitness, exercise physiology, sport nutrition, because we have 3 specializations coming out of that. So you get your Bachelor of Science in Sports Sciences. You can either specialize in sports management, athletic training, or the art and science of coaching. There are several other things that we do in terms of the base in providing that foundation. One of our external examiners said that for us to put sport nutrition, law, psychology, teaching sport and physical fitness, all those subjects together in this degree program, he has never seen anything like that in his experience in Canada and some of his experience in US. So we have a wonderful program for you. In terms of where you can go, you can be a star in several areas. You can be the manager of an athlete, you can be a team manager, you can be HR manager within a sporting organization, you can be a sport agent, you can be a sport analyst, you can be a facilities manager, you can be a personal trainer out of the athletic training program. Recently, 2 of our graduates, just recently, 2 of our graduates started their own fitness organizations because of the pandemic. People don't want to go to the gym. So you go to, is it Will Fit or Prezi Fitness? But they are trained as athletic trainers and they can manage you. Athletic trainer who does not to be confused with physiotherapy, athletic trainers are going to be dealing with the acute management of sports-related injuries. Program manager, we have students or graduates rather who are program managers with UNICEF. So you have sport for peace, you have sport for development, there are several sport-related programs. You have the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment, and Sport, where they have the sport unit. So you need sport-minded and sport-trained persons to be able to manage these areas. You recognize that physical activity, Jamaica Move campaign, we're recognizing the role of physical activity in terms of cutting down on some of our chronic non-communicable diseases. We have studies to show that when you exercise, you can reduce the sugar levels, you can reduce cholesterol, you can reduce your blood pressure. And because we are so afraid of taking medication for life, exercise releases endorphins. In this pandemic, people can become very depressed. Exercise and get it all going. You need someone who will be able to train you, to tell you how to exercise properly. You have teachers, or students have become teachers, they become analysts in teams because we teach them the applied sport performance. You have training and development managers in sport. You have your coaches. And this is just a few of the careers that you can have in sport. So we provide the base for you. Success means doing what you love and doing it well. Don't define success in terms of money. You can have a lot of money and be unhappy. Love what you do. Even though we don't provide the training for these other areas, you can use our training as a platform to go to other levels. You have your sports medicine doctor, you have your physiotherapist, your sport instructor, sport lawyer, sports psychologist. These are careers that you can step from our BSc program into those other areas. Now, sports has moved beyond fun and games. It never was. It is a science. It is a science of using the mechanics of the body to excel in sport or to manage or train an athlete. The human body is a machine, a well-functioning machine. You wouldn't carry your Benz to any roadside mechanic. You're going to take it back to Stewart and get it properly serviced. So when you have your athlete, you want to make sure you have a trained individual who will know how to prevent the injuries, who will know how to manage you, who your sport agent, who will guide you which interviews to do, which interviews to stay away from, which journalists are just predators and will get you to say things that are not, how to use your social media platform. You need persons like this. So excellence means daily commitment to producing excellent results. Successful people, they have a common factor. They put in their 10,000 hours in whatever they love. Whatever you love, you do it, and you do it every day. That's how you get to success. Now you'll have the scope of our athletic trainers that we mentioned. Because it's new, I thought I'd give a little thing about it. The athletic trainers are healthcare professionals trained to prevent, to examine, to diagnose, and to intervene in the acute and chronic emergency situations. So they are dealing with athletes as opposed to the physiotherapists who will be dealing with the chronic management of some patients. The physiotherapist can get the persons to a state of wellness, and then the athletic trainers will then take them on to the next level. So responding to acute sport emergency situations, caring for athletes and athletic injuries, whereas the physiotherapist will be looking at the clinical treatment of patients who need massage to get mucus off their chest, they will go there. Your diabetic patients with certain neuropathies that have to be treated by the physiotherapist. So when when they're at a certain level where they can do certain activities, they will go to their athletic trainer for consistent monitoring with the use of exercise to maintain your health. So it's all about perception, how you see things. Are you seeing here liar, or are you seeing the face of someone? I hope you're seeing the face of someone and not focus on the liar. And I'm not telling you lies. Now, how many legs do you see? You and I know that elephants are supposed to have 4 legs, but if you look, you can think that you're seeing up to 9 legs. It's all a matter of perception as where you see yourself, but the reality is matching your talents to the career for you to have success. And that's what we want you to do. So we want to take you to the next level. You have your Bachelor of Sciences, but you also have postgraduate degrees that can take you level. In every career that you go into, you want to be more qualified. You want to be more than the base. Now, the base is the bachelor's degree that you're going to build on, a strong foundation. We have master's program available as well. So we have the Master of Science in Physical Education and Sport that is done in collaboration with GC Foster College of Physical Education and Sport. The applications are sent to UTech Jamaica for processing. We monitor the program. We make sure the lecturers are engaged and qualified to produce the graduates that we want. The program is over 24 months and it's very flexible. We recognize that you want to work still. So full-time employees, you can work because the course is run on weekends and it's online, and we offer blended options as well. Your requirements: a Bachelor of Science degree in Physical Education or Sports Sciences with a GPA of 2.86, or we can look at what we call prior learning assessment. We look at your skill sets and your experience in your career, and we put points to that to see if you will get enough points for you to matriculate into the system. Where we find our graduates: sports sciences lecturer, sport administrator, sport development manager, recreational programmer, researcher. This is the next step in terms of managing persons. At CSOSS, we have the facilities to train our graduates. So this is our performance and rehabilitation lab. This, you'll see a picture in the middle, is our students with an overseas presenter, Dr. Drew Brown, came, and she came to UTech, and our students were going through learning some new techniques for managing their clans. The equipment that we have the latest in terms of what management of the athletes. So yes, you have ultrasound and all of that, but we have stepped it up. We have shockwave therapy machine. We have BOSU boards. We have TENS machines. We have a lot of things that we can use. We have force plate to assess the ground reaction forces and your center of pressure during your gait or you're walking and everything like that. and we're into research. Our students do research for their final project in order to get more information to add to sport knowledge, and our lecturers do individual research and supervise the students. Now you're thinking, how do you choose a career? Think about it. What are you good at doing? What do you love? Think about something that a job that will give you joy. So every day your job will become a joy. Not, boy, I don't want to go to work, you know. And there are different little software packages online that you can do. You can look at it and they will tell you which career options are best for you. I want you to develop a personal mission statement. What is your purpose? What is your meaning in life? What do you think you are called to do? Why you need a personal mission statement? It gives you clarity. It gives you focus. It guides your day-to-day actions. I must say, my manager said to me the other day that if whatever I'm doing does not contribute to my overall outlook and where I want to go, think about whether I want to continue with that action. So for every day I get up, I say to myself, will this take me to where I want to go? That is why you need a personal mission statement. It gives meaning and purpose. It helps you to identify your goals and write it down. Habakkuk, I'm big on the Habakkuk. Write it down. The vision tarries just for a moment. Before you forget your vision, you make sure you write that down and choose an accountability partner. It's like anything else. If I just have it locked into my mind that, yes, I'm going to do this, I'm going to write a research paper. But if I don't commit to it with one of my colleagues and say, you hold this to me, in 2 weeks' time, I'm supposed to be here. She calls me and she said, where are you with it? There you have it. But if I have it locked in my mind and I'm doing it by myself, you know what happened? 2 weeks later, and nowhere inside. So write it down and you keep it and you look at it. And there are certain attributes that you want. For self-awareness, think of it. I am best when. When what? What are you best at? I'm best when I'm researching and I'm looking for information for people. I am worse when I have no timelines. What do I really love to do at school? When I was at high school, I talked a lot. I was very popular. So I knew I had to be doing something, maybe teaching. Didn't like teaching, but eventually I ended up in there. What do I really love to do in my personal life? I like to read. I had to choose a career that I would have to read. The part of it that I always joke about my friends when they were thinking of going to med school, I said, I'm not going because that is continuous studying. I don't want to. But hear what? I lecture pharmacology and I have to read up new drugs every day. So you have to think about when you choose the shortcuts in life. My natural talents and gifts, where do they lie? And you think about it. And Socrates said, the unexamined life is not worth living. You have to check yourself every now and then. Imagination. If I had unlimited time and resources, what could I choose? What would I choose to do? I would choose to motivate, do motivational speaking all the time. That I would do with my time. What would you like to do? And your life goals, what are they? What would you like to do in life? These are things that can help you in terms of deciding your career. I'm clicking and I'm not. So sports sciences degree at work. We work with the Jamaica Football Federation in terms of safeguarding workshop, in terms of upgrading their coaches to the next level. We go to school. This is one of our students who is showing a student how to measure its cardiovascular system while on the bike. This is a camp, summer camp that we have for our young charges who want a sport camp. This is where we entertain students, not entertaining dance and things. You know, these are students in doing a particular module from Belmont University, and they came to Jamaica to know the intersection of tourism and sport. This is one of our students showing a nice little spot, one of the teachers at the open day that we were invited to, and this is another of our students. So we are very big in service and making others know where you can go. This is our sports sciences conference, and the mere fact that you see so many individuals in different aspects will tell you of the different career options that you can have in sport. So you have, these are pharmaceutical representatives, but you will need representatives to sell your products. You do Unispot to sell bandages and everything like that. You need people who know. So where you have a sports sciences degree, you can go into different areas. You have sport journalism. You have the minister for sports. So yes, he's a lawyer, but of course, in the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment, and Sport, because of the sport part, you need people with sport education. So you have the orthopedic surgeon who works with Paralympics, so that is career in sports, psychiatrist, and you have various sport administrators. Let me click through because my time is going. Our last conference, you can see you have businessmen who are very interested in sport. You have sport agents, you have Olympians who are still involved in sport and using sport as the next entrepreneurial skill for them in terms of gym. So sport is very wide. And whilst the parents think you want their traditional career getting flooded, this is an untapped area that you can get your children to be very good at. You want to be at the A game with anything that you do, and that is what we are affording them. So not only are we producing medalists in the Olympics, but you have to train these persons. And please note that these are all graduates who are at the top of their game in terms of the sport, but they got their sports sciences degree so they can maneuver to the next level of training when they are finished with active sport. So we want you to become a part of the tradition of excellence. The matriculation requirements for the Bachelor of Science program, 5 CXC or equivalents of CSEC, grades 1 to 3, CAPE 1 to 3, and we're taking either CAPE 1 or CAPE 2 can be considered as one of the science subjects. We want you to do science because with science, it trains your mind a certain way. If you're dealing with an athlete, you have to know how the body is going to function. So you have to do biomechanics, which is like the physics of the body. So you have to do science and have that grounding in science in order to understand human machine. Because of what is happening in the pandemic, we have other options for you. So please don't think that you can't apply. Please do apply and let us guide you as to the other measures or the other ways you can matriculate into our system. Because we have to adjust. That's what we do at UTech. We are at the forefront of change and adapting to change. If you don't adapt, you're going to stay still and you'll be left behind. So my contact is there. I'm Donna Marie Winter Adams. Our ABLE Program Director, Dr. Melissa Sanderson, can also help you, and our administrative support, Ms. Keon Banton, can also assist you in terms of matriculating into UTech. And if you don't matriculate right now, we follow up, we understand, we know that you need guidance, and because we have the information, we want to provide that for you. And so I thank you so much for listening and invite you to hear the other presenters and the other presentations. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Winter Adams. Thanks for the very informative presentation. I'm sure it served well to the participants, the persons involved. I'm sure they didn't know as much as they do now know about university, faculty, and by extension, the Caribbean School. So thank you so much for your presentation. And please bear in mind that, traditionally in sports, we tend to always have fun. It is a fun era regardless of the career that you might be in. So of course, we generally also, in spicing up things, solving the issues, keeping our vibes, we will have giveaways. So please make sure you made your notes of the presentations. Information might be crucial to you winning a prize or two. Please ensure you made notes.
Mr. Garis, one moment. So sorry to disturb you. Dr. Hilton has her hand raised.
Okay, go ahead, Dr. Hilton.
Thank you, Dr. Winter Adams. Wonderful presentation. I just wanted to emphasize one very important thing, Dr. Winter Adams, that you mentioned as it relates to the matriculation, just to remind the potential applicants that because application of the CXC results, what we are currently doing is we're offering conditional acceptances, and students will have up to 2 years to meet the matriculation requirements. So just so you're aware that we are making these adjustments and we are still accepting applications.
Okay, thanks, Doc. Thanks for that clarification and a little bit more information. So please ensure you got the contact information. Of course, if there's anything that is not clear or could be cleared up, please contact any one of those persons so you can be assisted as to how to matriculate. And of course, I'll take the opportunity to say I'm already looking forward to seeing you all at the university as students. So of course, without further ado, it is with even more pleasure now that we go into the first panel discussion, and we have 4 presenters that, you know, they are all friends, they're all colleagues in sport, and it is my pleasure to welcome them all. And of course, we're going to have Mr. Renardo Brown, Dr. Olivia Rose, Mr. Gabriel Martier. Hola, señor. Espero que todo esté bien. Mr. Rashid Hall. Of course, I can't speak the Swiss language, but welcome. I say that much. So of course, they'll be officially presented to us by way of introduction. So I'm going to ask Ms. Rosemary Nelson and Mr. Andrew Rose to please introduce our presenters or panelists.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lawrence. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Sports may often be considered nothing more than a silly game, but they have played a major role in our society. Famous Billie Jean King said, "Champions keep playing until they get it right." One of today's speakers is known for his work in the field of sports journalism, and we have Mr. Renardo Brown. Renardo Brown is a former cricketer and goalkeeper who loves sport. Saw him choosing to pursue advanced study in that field. He currently has a bachelor's in sports science degree, specializing in sports management, which was obtained from the Caribbean School of Sports Science at the University of Technology, Jamaica. Renardo, a sports journalist, has been in media since 2014. His journey started with him being employed at KLAS for 16 months before joining the RGR Group of Communication in 2016. His passion for sport has grown since his involvement in media, and he looks forward to going to his job every day. He's currently a sports anchor, radio presenter, and commentator. He's also happily married and has a son whom he loves dearly.
Are we going to know Mr. Rose? Or you will?
Mr. Rose.
One second, my thing was refusing to unmute for a while.
Okay, so Rose, go right ahead.
Okay, good morning, everybody. And it's my pleasure to present or introduce one of our panelists today. A sound mind in a sound body is one of the mottos that has lived throughout centuries. And Dr. Olivia Rose is a noted sports psychologist in Jamaica, serving as consultant to numerous athletes and sports teams, including the West Indies cricket team and the University of the West Indies Monarch. She's the expert voice on sports psychology related matters for various media houses in Jamaica. Dr. Rose was a guest on Ian Boyne's Profile in 2009. She completed both her BSc in psychology and MSc in applied psychology at the University of the West Indies Monarch. Currently, she holds a PhD in Sociology of Leisure and Sport from the University of Leicester, and across her academic career, she has earned several honors, including the Prime Minister's Youth Award for Excellence in Academics in 2009, a distinction in her MSc, being the first student to ever achieve this honor in our program, was the first person to be appointed sports psychologist on all the campuses of the University of the West Indies, and was the youngest awardee of the Hall of Honor High Achievers through the seasons at Westwood High School. Dr. Rose has both lectured and created courses in sports psychology for Jamaica Football Federation, the National Netball Association, or Netball Jamaica, and the University of Technology, Excelsior Community College, and the G.C. Foster College of Sports and Physical Education. Dr. Rose is the sports director of O&R Sports Consultancy, which is a sports company that serves the English-speaking Caribbean. She has been a motivational speaker and guest speaker at various conferences and workshops on self-development, sports psychology, and emotional intelligence, as well as on leadership. In her free time, Dr. Rose loves fashion, especially buying and recovering shoes, or receiving shoes, and going to the movies, hanging out with her friends, reading, traveling, and of course, art.
Gabriel Mateer commenced his studies in the spirit of sports with the certificate in art and science of coaching at University of the West Indies, St. Augustine, and progressed to complete his Bachelor's of Science degree in Physical Education and Sport at the International School of Physical Education and Sport in Havana, Cuba. He furthered his studies with a certificate in sport marketing and management and a diploma in sports psychology, as well as a diploma in therapeutic massage. He's currently completing his master's in sport for development at the University of Trinidad and Tobago. His career has included professional interaction with various sports teams and national organizations. He served the TNT Powerlifting Federation as the Certified International Powerlifting Federation Category 2 referee and has assisted both the Trinidad and Tobago and Guyana Amateur Powerlifting Federation with their referee and athlete development over a number of years. Presently employed with the Ministry of Sport and Community Development as a Director, Physical Education and Sport, Gabriel Dios has also served as a full-time academic instructor at the University of Trinidad and Tobago, and as a part-time lecturer with the University of the West Indies. In addition, he satisfied his passion for the health and fitness as a group fitness instructor and a personal trainer.
And finally, Rashid All. Rashid is a Jamaican international sports administrator who has resided in Switzerland for the past 6 years, having moved here in January 2015, receiving a full scholarship to study for a master's in sport administration and technology at the Academy of International Academy of Sports, Sciences and Technology in Lausanne, Switzerland, the Olympic capital. Rashid is a native of Montego Bay and was a recipient in the 2012 Prime Minister's Youth Award for Excellence in Leadership in Jamaica, and has been heavily involved in community service for the past 18 years, particularly with the Kiwanis International Organization, for whom he has registered over 9,000 service hours. Prior to his journey to Switzerland, the former Cornwall College head boy worked as a sports coordinator at the University of the West Indies, Mona, for 5 years, where he managed the newly developed sports scholarship program and was a brainchild behind the UWI Sports Leadership Academy and the annual UWI UTEC Sports Championships. During that time, he was also part of Jamaica's national delegation to the Commonwealth Games in 2014 in Glasgow, Scotland, and of course the CAC Games also in 2014 in Veracruz, Mexico, and in 2014 the World University Games in 2015, which is in Kazan, Russia, and in Shenzhen, China in 2013. So he has traveled quite a bit. In 2016, Rashid became the first Caribbean national to work at the headquarters of the International Olympic Committee in Lausanne, Switzerland, where he began a project mandate aimed at developing and presenting the sustainability strategy for the IOC and guiding international federations on the new approach. After his time at the IOC, Rashid went to the CAA 11, UEFA, that's the European Football Union, exclusive sponsorship and media agency for national team football as a sponsorship coordinator, managing various global accounts, including U-Blot and SOCAR, and was the lead on sponsor involvement in projects such as the Trophy Tour and fan zones for Euro 2020 football tournament. Currently, Rashid is major partnership manager for the International School of Geneva, where he works on development projects for the school through the support of and with foundation, corporations, HNW, UNHW individuals. During his time in Switzerland, Rashid has also held the post of president, that's between 2017 to 2020, of the Jamaica Association of Switzerland, an organization which aims to showcase Jamaica's culture in Switzerland, provide an avenue through which Jamaicans in the space can connect, and perhaps most importantly, engaging in and funding early childhood projects in Jamaica. Rashid is a proud father and husband and supports Chelsea FC, the Miami Heat, and all Jamaican national teams. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our panelists. Over to you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you so much for presenting the 4 panelists that we will have with us today. Of course, it is with great pleasure that we do so and look forward to the conversations to be had. So of course, while I'm seeing Dr. Rose on the screen at this time, I take the pleasure to ask her the first question around, what is a typical day like in the life of Dr. Olivia Rose?
Okay, so good morning, everyone. I hope that everybody's hearing me. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. And I had a little presentation to show all of what my day would look like, and it's more in images. So let me know if I have sharing privileges. If not, I'll just continue. All right, so briefly, in my 5 minutes, being a sports professional, I'm gonna stick to the time. So this is really what my short presentations, we're gonna do a 100-meter dash here. All right, so I'm gonna look at victories, future projections, and challenges. But of course, let's talk about the challenges, and especially since Mr. Garrix asked about what a typical day looks like, it's not void of challenges. And being a sports psychologist in the English-speaking Caribbean for over a decade, there have been numerous challenges. One is that we have very few sports psychologists in the region. And as such, I think I heard the presenter before me, I'm not sure if it was Dr. Donna Marie, saying that this is an area for persons to become more interested in. And of course, another major challenge is the stigma with seeing a psychologist generally. People tend to run away from us. I won't give you my many experiences of persons running away from me initially, and then after the relationship has been built, I can't seem to shake them off. But there's also the perception that seeing a sports psychologist is very expensive, and there's a lot of ignorance surrounding what we do. And many people will say, let us just come in for a quick fix. We do not do quick fixes or just come and talk to the team. That's not what we do. Just like other sports professionals and sports practitioners, we actually have a program. And of course, it has been challenging over the past decade regarding other members of staff, especially some coaches, even though that number has been reduced, not being very receptive of us in their team. And, you know, the myth that, oh, well, we didn't have a sports psychologist back in the day, so why do we need you now? And of course, this big one, and I still get it even after 12 and 14 years of practicing, about volunteering for the experience. Come and work with this team. And I bet you have never worked with this team before. Come and get the experience, and we still do. Victories, we've had many, as with the challenges, although we'd have had more challenges than victories. So there was a first applied sports psychology conference launched in 2018 with sports psychologists from all across the region. Here we have represented Trinidad and Tobago, Miss Amanda Johnson, myself from Jamaica, and Dr. Rudy Aline from Barbados. And there are a few more in Trinidad mostly, and one in Guyana. And of course, as was mentioned in part of my introduction about being appointed in the capacity of sports psychologist for the University of the West Indies, Mona. And this is just, these are some pictures of different sport professionals at the first conference of applied sports psychology. Victories is that we now realize that parents and coaches and even associations are seeing the importance of sports psychologists and having sports psychologists on board. And that has been a major victory. We are still not included as we should be, but it is not where it was in 2008. We are also working more to help in the total preparation of the athlete. And that's also another major victory. And persons are now seeking the services even more. And of course, we do a collaborative approach when implementing any of our programs. So we do not work in isolation of any sport profession. So if you're not a team player, I don't suggest that this is a career that you take on, because you have to work with people and you also learn from them and they learn from you. And it's a very interesting career, and fun and challenging, because there are times when you need to be flexible, because it's one day you will be in heels and the next day you may be in sneakers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rose. Of course, I'm always in sneakers, being a male, right? I'm always in sneakers, but it's good to know that, there are different experiences, that one could have throughout the day. So of course, Gabby McTeer, I see the passion about the healthy lifestyle and the training and so on. But Sir McTeer, what would make you so passionate about what you do? What is it that you're so passionate about? Or what is it about sports that you love so much?
First and foremost, thank you very much for having me on. As I just told Andrew Moore, it's probably the closest I've been to Jamaica right now, until such time that borders open in Trinidad and Tobago and I could actually fly out again, right? So thank you very much for having me on this forum. Sport has always been a passion for me. Sport and physical activity. I don't think there's ever been a point once I started walking that I wasn't in some way physically active. I always remember one of my primary school teachers saying, and I was probably about 5 years old, that there was a point in time when my grandmother had to come into the school. She asked my grandmother to come into school to just have a discussion. And one of the things that my grandmother would have asked was, I noticed that Gabriel tends to bring his lunch home. He doesn't eat his lunch at school. Why is that? And the response was, well, while all other students are having lunch, Gabriel is outside by himself playing. Being an only child, being able to play by myself I'm an expert at that. So I've always been very much involved in physical activity, always playing, always in sport. So it's a passion that grew with me throughout my life. I have had various family members as well who have been participating in sport. My aunt was a track athlete at high school. My grandfather was a club hockey player and was on the cusp of national selection before an injury. And I have other family members who would have followed suit. So for me, health, fitness, sport is just part and parcel of who I have been and who I am. I couldn't see myself getting into another career really and truly. What also helps to inspire me further is the same grandmother I would have spoken about. She never really was an athlete, but she has always been an advocate for health and fitness. She is now 103 years of age, and she still exercises at least 3 times a week. I don't need to tell her a word. She knows what to do. I've guided her accordingly. She has her 3-pound dumbbells. She uses the staircase on the outside. She gets her stair work in. She gets her little dumbbell work in. She'll go down on the floor, get her little abdominal work in, and she is a very healthy and still a rather independent 103-year-old. So at the end of the day, with that inspiration, I mean, I can't do nothing else, but try to maintain what legacy she has put forward so far, and try my best to encourage others to do the same.
Thanks so much, Gabri. Of course, knowing you personally, I can understand what it is, and even knowing your grandmother personally, it is really good to know that she is and still active, and you have been important to this process. Very, very important, and also helpful on your path. Of course, to our next panelist, we have Renardo. It is one of the questions I wanted to ask him since he was a student at our school. Why did he choose a career in journalism? That's a question I've always wanted to ask. And since I'm the host now, I can. So Renardo, now is the time, please. Could you respond?
Good morning, Mr. Gary. Good morning to everyone. You hear stories all the time about I didn't choose my job chose me. I think I'm one of those cases. I graduated from CSOSS in 2014, was among the first batch of students at CSOSS. And when I left in 2014, I couldn't find a job. At that point, Mr. Paulton Gordon was one of my lecturers. We were still very close and talking about options in sports. Jordan Fort, in April 2014, left KLS and went to the RGR Gleaner Communications Group. And at that point, Mr. Gordon said to me, well, KLS is looking for someone. Maybe you should apply down there. I was like, no. I don't think I can manage media because I've never been in media before. I did a course in media at the Caribbean School of Sports Sciences, but I don't think I know enough about media. Anyway, I applied in April 2014. I got the job at KLS. At that point, I couldn't pronounce my name. I knew nothing about journalism. I was a participant in sport. I played football, played cricket at high school level, at club level. And at the end of it, got in, spoke with Sean Grant, spoke with the late Tony Young. They encouraged me. Every morning, Sean would have some form of tongue twister or something to get me engaged and to learn to pronounce words and to know sports. And as I said, I played sports. I wasn't really involved in anything outside of that. And from there, the love for sport grew in 2014. Sean taught me commentary, how to be descriptive. And then in 2016, I went to Sabina Park to watch the CPL. I was always fascinated with how commentary work and how they operate. So I went to the commentary box. At that point, someone asked me on, saw me in the room, asked me on, I was on radio to have some discussion in between innings, and I did. 2 days later, I was doing some form of commentary at a T20 competition in Boys Town at the time. A few days later, someone called me and said, well, Ricardo Chambers dropped out and we need somebody to fill Ricardo's shoe. Can you do commentary? And I said, yes, I can. I went and they said, we'll try you out. We'll give you about 2 overs. And after 2 overs, they brought me on and I ended up doing the rest of CPL 4 games in Jamaica. That year, West Indies played India in the Caribbean. And I was asked to come on as one of the main commentators for that test series. And I think that is where the love grew. I then moved to RGR Gleaner Communications Group. And from there, the learning process still continued until today. So that is how I got into sports journalism, just someone who left University of Technology. I was equipped with the tools to always try to be confident and to do the best that I can in everything. And I use those, and here I am today.
Oh, wow. If I knew it were that simple, I would have asked this question a long time ago. But it is really good to hear that, you would have been prepared. And of course, being prepared, the opportunity came along and you would have grasped it with both hands. Of course, this is something that of course, at the university, we also say that we are preparing graduates who are ready for the workforce, the tools, they would have them. But of course, you have options. So while I knew you were a big cricketer in your time, and you weren't good enough, though, I'd say that on publicly. But,
and I accept that publicly.
But when I hear you commentating, I'm like, whoa, he found this calling. So I'm extremely proud and happy that you would have chosen, that area. So, and you continue to do a very good job, I must say. Of course, you're most welcome. Of course, Rashid Hall. One of the questions I would have had the privilege to see you, within your workspace, but one of the things I've always thought about, being a Jamaican so far away, in Europe, and of course, working in that kind of environment, first I'll ask, what really are the roles that you play? And of course, the challenges that you would face, while being a Jamaican, while operating in the European space. Sir Hall?
Thank you, Mr. Garrix. Let me just first of all say thanks for inviting me to a session like this. It's always a pleasure to be able to speak to my fellow Jamaicans back home. And today I feel like I am at home. I'm seeing a lot of faces on this call that I know very well. And it makes my day a bit better. Before even going there, I just wanted to point out something that Dr. Adams said about the fact that you should try to think about careers that you have a passion for and something that you love. For many of us, we'll have to work 40 plus years. And so it is important that this is something that will bring us a positive energy each and every day. Last night I was watching something called Spearfishing Jamaica, which I do sometimes. It's a random YouTube videos that is done by someone. I'm not sure where in Jamaica they are, someone on the North Coast, but they go out at sea and they go down and they're just spearfishing. And literally the guy has over 500,000 views on his videos. I just made that example to say how things have changed. And in the world that we live in today, it is very important that we really think about our passions. For me, talking about career is very interesting because, as my mother likes to always say, the first job that I wanted to do, have you ever been to the market and you see these people that's pushing the cart and delivering people's vegetables to their car? Well, apparently at 3 years old, that is what I said I wanted to become in life. I wanted to be a handicap man down at Carnation Market. And so, at different points in time, I changed. When I went to Cornwall in grade 7, we were asked to introduce ourselves, and I would always say I want to become a scientist. Then at some point in grade 9, I decided to do computer programming until I started IT in grade 10 and realized, no, The binary and the numbers thing is not for me. So when we talk about career and going into different spaces, it's a very interesting topic for me because I was never one that was specialized from birth, knowing I want to become a doctor, I want to become something. In the area of sports, I believe that was something I always loved. I was always a keen fan of sports. But my brother, who ran for KC for a number of years, is probably how I really got into it to a certain level, by being around him. And if anybody knows that KC program, it's a rigorous, well-oiled machine, week in, week out, from August back to May. Every Saturday at track meets doing different things. And so picking up a bit of knowledge from that. But perhaps the key aspect, and that's something I'd love to share with the students and parents on the call today, is I really ventured into sport through volunteerism. And volunteerism, as was said in my introduction, has been a big part of my life. Majority of my experiences have come through opportunities from volunteerism. I literally went to Grace Jackson at UWI and said, I don't like that sports day is being held during the time when we have class. Nobody knows about it. It sucks, in different words. We need to do something about it. And she said, well, if I have so much opinions, why don't I come and help her? And I said, sure, I would. Free of cost, volunteer. And I did that for about almost a year. And that led to me being hired by them, and things happened afterwards. So I would love to say to persons that they need to think about how they can gain experience. And the best way to do that is through volunteerism. We have a number of federations and associations that need help. I'm regularly speaking to a number of them, and they want people to come and assist. So that would be the first step in. If we talk about the transition to Europe, what are some of the benefits and challenges? I think from a benefit point of view, when I came here, my objective was to I knew after 5 years at UWI that I definitely wanted to have a career in sport. Because there was always times when I wondered, I see someone asked in the chat if parents are supportive of that choice. Even when working at UWI, I think my family was wondering, really, is this going to be a long-term career? Are you sure you want to do a master's in sports in Jamaica when you have 10 jobs in sports? You know, you're going to limit yourself. And so it took me a while to decide that was something I definitely wanted to do. But when I really started to expose myself and realize that, hey, when I go on these travels with Jamaican teams or when I interact in meetings, I am normally 15 years younger than most people around. I just said to myself, you know what, if there's 10 jobs out there, I'm going to get one of them. Because as I've always done in my life, I've always said if I was going to become a garbage collector, someone dealing with sewage, it doesn't matter, but I'm going to be either the president of that association or the garbage collector of the year, whatever it is, I'm going to try to do it to the best of my ability. And so with that confidence, I came here to do a master's in sport. And from a positive point of view, it has been the exposure. It has been being able to go to FIBA, the head of basketball, which is 5 minutes down the road from where I live, or going to the IOC or going to UEFA, and literally being in this presence of these spaces which are making the decisions for the sports that we love so much. Being able to understand how does sport work at a business level? Because when I left Jamaica, I knew I would say the athlete side, the coordination side, the event side. My fundamental goal was to try to learn the business side. I wanted to learn about contracts. I wanted to learn about sponsorship. How do we bring value? Because that's one of the challenges we have back home. We love our sports, and we in the sports community know that we love it and we think it's great, but we sometimes have challenges resonating that message to corporate Jamaica. So that was one of the biggest missions I tried to do. And so therefore, when I worked at UEFA on sponsorship management for the Euro, contracts that are 50 plus million US, that was really being able to engulf myself to say, okay, how do you really sell this to a Volkswagen, to a Hublot, to a SoCar, to say, come and give me this high level of money, and what is it that they get in return, and how do we present that? So the experience has made me, I think, a better professional in terms of my level of what I consider to be the standard of what we must deliver. You know, something simple like reports, which is something we don't really do a lot when we get the money from companies. We get it and we say thank you and we're so happy, but they don't get their return in terms of the reports. What was the return on investment for them, for example, so we can continue that relationship for a long period of time. So things like that. On the challenging side, there's always challenges, and I'm in a totally different culture. I'm in a country that doesn't speak English as a national language. They have 3 languages: Italian, German, and French. And yet I'm an English speaker, which I'm a little bit of a French speaker now, but I'm struggling, So that's always been a challenge. It's also considered that, as a Jamaican, they assume that I'm good at sport and athlete level, but I always have to prove myself at a management level, as a sport professional. I was never an athlete. I remember in high school, after finishing my 6th season, when I got my 10, and I said, you know what, I can take some time to maybe do a sport now at a good level. I went to Cornwall, so I thought football would have been too hard, too many good guys and that. So I went into track and field. And at the end of my season, my coach said to me, he's still there at Cornwall, so I won't call his name. He said, you know, if you were as half as talented as you are dedicated, you'd be a champs gold medalist. And he told me to come back September, but of course I didn't, because I don't know how that's supposed to be a motivating comment for me. But then I went on to do other things. But the point is, I was never an athlete. And so coming into this space, you find that there are a lot of persons who I've worked alongside. I've been at meetings with Luis Figo, for example, who is someone who played at the highest level at Real Madrid and Barcelona. And so when they speak, you know, they command respect. This is someone who played the sport at the highest level, working now for UEFA. When I, you know, of course, if I make a comment on track and field, whether I know it or not, they normally assume that I'm correct because of the Jamaicanness. But when we talk about other sports like football, we talk about basketball and other things which we may not necessarily have such a great, let's say, international recognition in as yet, I have to defend that. And so, I mean, just to summarize in a sense, I have always had to work twice as hard, I believe, as my European counterparts. But in the end, for me, it has always been, I realize that I'm an ambassador for the country. Any interaction that they have with me, I might be the first Jamaican they've met, and the impression that I leave with them is what they will think of Jamaicans until they meet another one. And so it's important to always represent at the best level possible. And other challenge, just being away from home, you know, just being able to be amongst people where, you know the people, you know the way of working, you know how people are, what they expect to do. For example, being very direct in the how we tend to be very direct and assume that people are thin-skinned. In this case, you have to be a little bit more soft, you know. I mean, when I'm writing to one of my colleagues and he's done something incorrect, I always have to start by saying, listen, I appreciate the direction you're going, but that's not the direction we would like to go. If it was Garrix, I said Garrix, that don't sound like it's going the right way. Now let's do something different. So you just have to adapt yourself to culture as much as possible. I would definitely encourage the people or the students on this call who have an interest in sport to do that. You know, life is unpredictable. We see the industry evolving. We hope that Jamaica will continue to evolve. I'm very happy by the presentation made by Dr. Adams and the number of things that UTech are doing as part of helping our industry. Some of these things I didn't even know before. So I was taking some notes and writing down. Not that I want any gifts, Garrix, but I was taking notes. And I'm very proud to know that the institution is taking up the level of trying to help to develop our industry, because we're still very embryonic. There's still so much further for us to go to really have a full-fledged industry of sport locally and in the Caribbean. And so for students, I would definitely encourage them to pursue their dreams. You know, in this day and age, it's for us to carve out a space within which we can thrive. You know, there's nothing that will be presented, nothing has ever been given to me before coming here. I knew my way financially for 6 months, and now I've been here 6 years. Sometimes we have to take a leap of faith and just know that, you know, if we have our heads in the right space and the right mentality, we can achieve anything.
Thanks so much, Rashid. And I must say, I'm really looking forward to when we work again. You know, having worked with you while you were here in Jamaica, of course, I can to attest to your willingness and, of course, your capabilities as an administrator. You know, I really look forward to that relationship again. And this might be a talk for us personally, but I'm sure that something will happen in the near future. And thanks much. I see a question in the chat, and this is for Dr. Rose. You know, I know the West Indies connection. So of course, persons are asking, what is it like? What was it like working with the West Indies cricket team?
Thank you for that question. Just generally, I can say that as a sports psych, first of all, I want to thank Cricket West Indies for bringing on and being the first regional cricket team to bring on board a sports psychologist. And they were also very instrumental in getting the group of sports psychologists together in the Caribbean. So that for me is highly commendable. But the experience was a very interesting one, a dynamic one at one point where your accent might not be clear enough, even though you are working amongst your own. It took me a while to understand the different accents from the different islands and learn their culture and so on, because that's a whole different space. But ultimately, what I really admired was the effort of the women and how they employ themselves to putting in the work, even though it may not have translated all the time on the pitch, but at the same time, they were very eager to and receptive of a sports psychologist on board, being a part of the management team. And again, when you travel on tour with athletes, especially in countries that we're not familiar, the weather may be issues, the food may be issues, but there's always something from somebody's Caribbean home that will remind you of home. So it was a very good experience. And from time to time, there would be integration of the sports psychological program integrated with the other sports sciences, science professionals that were on board. So overall, that experience was very good. And I, again, welcome more persons to be interested in this area, because the pool of persons definitely need to increase. And I want to endorse wholeheartedly what my Chelsea colleague had said. You know, they knocked us out yesterday, but that's okay, Mr. Hall. And about volunteerism, because what many persons don't know is that having worked in the English-speaking Caribbean and being the first is not necessarily an easy journey. And for a year, I volunteered with all the necessary qualification as a sports psychologist. So volunteerism does help to create that path to where you want to go. Nice to see you also, Mr. Brown. It's a very wonderful and interesting platform. Former student, super proud of you.
Thank you, Doc. And I would hasten to say that, you know, I must say this, that I think a part of the intervention you made, you know, with sports psychology would have helped the West Indies lady, of course, win the tournament that they did. You just want to mention that to the team, to the group? You heard, Doc?
Okay, yes, I did. I just was trying to unmute. Sorry about that. So yes, I mean, and I didn't mention that because, again, as I said before, it's a team effort. When you work in sports, it's not just what you do, but I will definitely say that it was integral, because for those of you who play cricket, you know that a lot of cricket is mental, and it requires a lot of mental preparation, mental fortitude, and endurance and execution. So definitely it was a team effort that helped us to be victorious. So I would also like to thank the other persons that I worked with and for the support, because if you are in a team and they don't understand what role you play or what it is that you do, then there may be challenges in you implementing sports psychological techniques and so on again. So I want to thank them for that support and to thank the ladies and congratulate them as well.
Thank you, Doc. Always happy to hear. Sports is really a team. And even while we have individuals who participate in individual sports, it really takes a team of persons to do the necessary preparations and so on. So which it leads me to the next question. And of course, Sir Mathieu, you know, I'd really want to ask you this one. You know, you are all the way in Trinidad and Tobago, you're sharing with us today. You know, you are the director of sport there. Would you say your profession is appreciated or acknowledged the way it ought to be, you know, in your country?
Good question. It's one of the things that I think is important for young people to understand getting into a career is that it's not always a case where what you do and what you attempt to do and your vision and how you see things is fully appreciated, right? It's a case whereby, as has been said previously, one has to be able to work in a team. One has to be able to understand that people will have differences of opinion from you, and not everything that you may think is the right thing or you may think is gold is actually going to be understood, and your vision is not always going to be put in place. So even as in the position of director, there are other authorities that I have to answer to. There are, and with those authorities come other ideas and other concepts. And it's a matter of being respectful, not taking things personally, and being able to try to find ways within the team framework to get the overall goal achieved. So it's, I think the aspect of not taking things personally is very important as a professional, because if it is as a professional, somebody disagrees with you, or you don't think there's a sort of understanding going forward as to the appreciation of your play or the appreciation of your efforts, then either you crash and burn as a professional, or you come out of the team, or you find yourself in some way losing that ability to maintain the level of momentum that can be placed into being able to get your vision and your ideas implemented at some point. So definitely, yeah, you could run into those situations where you don't feel appreciated. It's a matter of how you deal with it. It's a matter of how you manage it. It's a matter of how it is you look sometimes beyond yourself and look at the greater goal, look at the greater good, and you move along. You move along, not forgetting your goals, not forgetting your vision, not forgetting your ambitions, but still looking at the overall effort needed to be able to get the overall goal achieved.
Thanks, Sir Mathieu. Of course, you know, it is really something that is really taking off and is becoming really big, but is for the most part on top just now. So, you know, it is important, having heard these comments, that there is so much space and room for persons to become sports professional in so many of these different areas. But I'll ask the last question too, and this is for all four of you, that, you know, having done what you did, having been in the careers that you are, at any point, did you feel like switching careers or letting go or giving up? Or did anyone whisper in your ear, why, no, I think you could do something else. I think you'd be better served being a doctor. I think you'd have been better served being a lawyer. Would have that come about, whether it is externally, or would have you said so to yourself at some point? So, you know, briefly, could each one of you just say, since we have Dr. Rose, the prettiest among the four, we'll allow her to go first.
For sure, I can say that all true champions, all victorious persons, at some point in time would have had that moment of wondering if it's worth it. Because I can say for a fact, I did wonder, especially initially, if this was worth it, not just worth it, but given the fact that there were no other trailblazers, no real template for me to follow, and the lack of support sometimes, I definitely wanted to turn to other careers, but then there was something about sport that challenged me, for the mere fact that on any given day, you may not know what's gonna happen. And it's always about application and, you know, how are you going to, what is new, how are we gonna solve this now? And most of human motivation, again, is heavily linked to wanting to solve problems and wanting to be a part of a whole that's bigger than themselves. So I think sport in and of itself provides that. Also, as much as there were times when I did feel like giving up, I felt this desire, this strong need to continue so that I could make the path easier for those who would follow. And as Mr. Hall mentioned in his presentation, when you get this platform in sport, it's not just about you. You are representing a whole nation. You're representing not just the people in your career, you're representing so many other groups of people. So part of that, and you know, we're good at cheerleading. So there were cheerleaders and there were support. So for that reason, I did not give up, but I did feel like giving up several times, especially when I would have finished university with 2 degrees at the time and had to work for free. I started to wonder this could not have been the right choice, but I stuck it out and I'm here some 12 years after.
Oh, and making very valuable contributions. So, you know, I think you made the right choice. Sir Brown?
Yeah, there were numerous occasions where I felt like giving up. When I stepped into the RGR Cleanup Communications group and entered the News and Sports department for the first time, and you met persons like the late Doreen Samuels, Janella Perseus, Archibald Gordon, all those noted reporters, persons you see on TV, you hear on the radio all the time, coming out of university with a sports management degree, working at KLS for about 14 months before being offered the job there. Of course, I felt like I didn't belong. I share stories with persons every day that even now, I still have the feeling as if I don't belong because I didn't go to a CARIMAC or I didn't study at Northern Caribbean University and do mass communication. But it's when you hear stories like the one Rashid just shared, leaving Jamaica, going to Switzerland with knowing that he could make it for 6 months and now being there for about 6 years. When you hear those stories, you think that, hey, it's what you're dealing with isn't that hard. I had a tough time at first with a previous boss. I was left to feel inferior. I had to do voice and speech training. Even there, I almost gave up because I just couldn't find a safe space in my mind where I could say, yes, I sound as if I'm a sports journalist or a reporter. And I went through that. I was very depressed. My girlfriend, no, my wife, Cody, she encouraged me a lot. She was always there because she studied mass communication at Northern Caribbean University, and she helped me through that process. And of course, there are times you want to give up. When you work in a field as journalism where it's so unforgiving, it takes one mistake for you to be compared to a Never Bertie Spell or a Simon Crossgill or a Hubert Lawrence. It's really difficult, and you have to remain strong, you have to remain confident, and you also have to believe in your personal conviction. You have to believe in yourself, because at the end of the day, you represent yourself and you want to do the best that you can. And for me, I represent an industry that even now persons look down on, because I don't think we get the appreciation that we deserve in sports, because persons still believe that sports is just about rundown and stocky and all those kind of fun and games. They don't see the industry as serious. So you're always trying to prove that, yes, sports is a viable option. Yes, sports persons are serious. You are often told that it's dunce people that do sports. I was told that in a class when I went to UTech, in a bio class, by a young lady, and I ensured that every time we did a test, I got more than her. And those are the kind of motivation. And sports teaches you that, because as Dr. Rose can share, is that you have to be mentally strong to be a sports person.
Thank you. You know, I know from being a student at CSOSS, you were always a strong person. You know, it's really good that you remain so. And while I might not know some of the errors or mistakes that you have made, from what I see, you're not making any. You're doing a good job. You know, I might be responding based on emotions. You know, but I think you're doing a good job. So continue to do so. Rashid, you know, I know now you might not be getting that because you're doing so well for yourself. But before, tell us, you know, how was it for you? Were you encouraged not to?
You know, Sir Garrix, as I mentioned before, sometimes when I started in sport as someone that would have been, you know, for example, head boy of Cornell College and things like that, one would have assumed, people around us assumed I would go into a different direction. But You know, my fellow panelist from Trinidad, Gabriel, if I pronounce that correctly, he spoke about his grandmother who was 103 and still doing exercise. And I'm hopefully able to still say I'm young, but I have what people say, an old soul. I think about what I will be doing at the age of 103 and how I look back on my life. And I think it will be the major impactful moments and experiences that I will think on as the thing and the legacy that I left. And I think about at UE, during the UE Tech Sports Championships and seeing almost 10,000 people there when they said it couldn't be done at tertiary level. People only like high school sports in Jamaica. I remember being in Shenzhen, China with Odian Richards throwing 19.93 meters for the first time, gold medal on the first day of track and field there, and the feeling I had then. You know, just different things across periods of time. Students have contacted me on Facebook to say thank you. I became Scotiabank Employee of the Year, and if it wasn't for the scholarship that I got at UE, their life was in a total different trajectory. So I say that to say that for me, I have no regrets in terms of the path I've chosen. Along the way, at every single year, I've had opportunities to think about things that will be a part of my journey when I'm 103 years old. You know, I say that positively because I intend to get there. So for me, sport is one of those things that is cross-cutting across society. And I just said that because someone asked a question about health, and just to respond to her, I think it was Amelia. You know, sport is a part of security. It's a part of the health sector. It's a part of well-being. It's a part of youth and culture. It is something that is very useful in every part of what we can do. And as a patriot for Jamaica and a nationalist, I believe that we have a very, very powerful role to play for development and the future of our country. Basil asked about our involvement at high school. For me, I've been asked a few times to sit on boards there. I'm not, I think, ready for that yet because the mentality is different. But I'm this year starting a foundation to be helping students at Cornwall. And I'll do my first grant at the end of this year. So there are other ways you can get involved as well. So to sum up, there have been naysayers. But when I look at my friends and those who've gone into other fields, I feel quite happy as to where I am at. I wake up every morning very happy about what I'm doing and the impact that we have as sports professionals. And certainly, I know that in the next couple of years, there's a lot more ahead of me, not just here, but back home in terms of what my future will bring and what I can help in terms of moving sport forward and hopefully moving our country forward through sports.
Thanks so much, Rashid. And I made note of everything, but I made note of the coming back home. You know, I like that part. You know, I made note of it. So, you know, I hear you. Of course, Gabriel, Mactier, you know, what is it like for you? I know you said your family has a tradition, you know, being involved in sports and so on. But what has it been like for you?
Thankfully, my family was rather supportive. In fact, and I'm sure that there are a lot of young persons listening who will be going through what I would have gone through at the time of leaving school. I had no clue what I wanted to do. None. I didn't know what job I wanted to get into. I had no idea what career I wanted to get into. My aunt is the one who would have recognized that I'm always in sport. Have always been in sport. Multiple sports I've played, trained, practiced. And I had a bit of an analytical mind. So if she asked me, well, how a game went, I would go into a whole explanation as to, you know, analyzing what would have taken place, where the mistakes were made. So she was like, all right, what is for you? I was lucky enough at the point in time where the certificate in the art and science of coaching course at UE St. Augustine had just started. So I was able to take advantage of that. And that was it. That was it. My grandmother said, I always remember my grandmother saying that the most she ever saw me study, the most diligent I was ever at studying, is when I started to study sports studies. So ultimately, where the family was concerned, that wasn't an issue in terms of the challenge. Of course, challenges still come at you, right? There'll always be questions that you ask of yourself as to, is this, you know, is this journey, or at this point in the journey, is this where I want to give up, or do I continue? I mean, Lawrence, you, Andre, Nahil, I don't know if Nahil is still here, but I mean, you guys know how we struggled in Cuba, right? To be able to finish that 5-year degree program, the the various struggles that we would have had, whether it would have been in terms of the food, whether it would have been in terms of adapting to the culture, whether it would have been in terms of the language barrier. And sometimes you ask yourself, I mean, not being at home as well. And sometimes you ask yourself, I mean, is it worth it? Why am I doing this? However, I think one of the things that sport provides, especially persons who have given themselves to a career in sport, is that sport naturally engenders passion. It's inherent in sport to be passionate about it. And once it is you love sport and you say you say to yourself, I'm going to choose that career, most time that passion is what carries you through, because ultimately you already invested in it in some way or shape or form. Is it in terms of love of a club or a particular athlete or having played sport yourself? So ultimately, I think the career, having a career in sport for somebody who is already in sport is usually very, very easy to maintain that dedication, to maintain that trajectory, to be able to understand better, why am I doing this, right? As I say, when it is you love what you do, you really don't work a day in your life. And that's how I feel. Even with the challenges that I have, and the various things that I do, I think definitely you have that overall understanding that you want to make a difference. So that definitely helps in terms of dealing with the challenges that you end up facing. What I would also like to advise young persons who are getting into a career in sport or a career in general is do some research, find out about your field or the field that you want to get into, and start to get familiar with some of the persons in that particular sector or industry. Befriend persons as mentors. I mean, I have two persons, one who I call my sports mother, one who I call my sports father, who really have guided me in some of the more difficult aspects of my career, and also who I could just remember when it is I am going through a struggle. I remember their trajectory to get to where they are. And that helps me to remember that, hey, you probably don't have it that hard. And you can manage this, So these are things that you try to use. And as Dr. Adams, I think would have, not I think, but as Dr. Adams would have mentioned in her opening presentation, having a vision statement, having an accountability partner helps. Mr. Brown, you would have mentioned that your wife is the one who helped to sort of really get you through this. And for a lot of us, it's a grandmother, it's a girlfriend, it's a wife, it's a husband, it's a father who really helps to just give us that sort of guidance when things get difficult. So understanding first and foremost, I think that challenges are just part of the journey. There's no journey in life where you won't have challenges. So first, understanding and accepting that challenges are part of the journey is important. After that, it's about having people close to you that can help you to get past these challenges and to understand that usually it's a lot less serious than you think it is. And it's something that you definitely can manage. Having that vision statement placed somewhere where you can see it on a daily basis almost helps in terms of just pushing forward and understanding that what it is you're doing is more than just yourself. And I would also like to add in that spirituality. You have to have a very strong spiritual connection. For me, in my office, the prayer of serenity hangs high in every office I've been in, because the prayer of serenity basically guides me to remember that at the end of the day, you need to be able to have some discernment. You need to be able to know what are the challenges that you need to just go hard at, because you can control certain things. That sometimes there are challenges you just have to back up and say, you know what, I ain't playing any fight for this one. And you need to have the necessary wisdom to understand the difference. And I think if it is you know, with that prayer in mind, it helps to guide you through the various challenges that you will have. in your career, and it's important that we take those things into account, because ultimately we look at a lot of successful people and we see, as they say, you see the glory, you don't see the story, right? So we have to be able to understand that, yes, there are challenges that you're going to face at every single step, at school, at university, at work, in your family, etc. How do you manage it? How do you get over these things successfully to be able to continue on the journey towards the goal that you want to achieve? And that's what I would like to leave with everybody.
Thank you so much, Sir Mactier. I almost was a little bit confused as to who was a psychologist at some point. I think the psychology came out so much, you know, and I think it is more than a fitting way to, you know, to wrap up this session, this first session, that, you know, it's really important that all of those factors be taken into account. Let me say a big thank you to our 4 panel members for sharing. Very informative, you know, your personal lives as it pertains to your profession. So I want to say a very big thank you to all of you, and I encourage you, there are some questions in the chat, if you're able to go through and answer a few of them. Of course, time is against us, so we're not able to ask all of them as they were sent in the chat. But please feel free to go through, and if you're able to respond, please do. Thanks so much, the 4 of you. It was really enlightening. And I'm sure not just for the students who will become a part, but also for me, you know, it was very good to interact with all 4 of you as we went on. So thank you so much for it. We're going to go into an item now. And of course, you know, this is something I always like. The saxophonist will come and entertain us as we prepare to have our second round of panelists present and share with us. So is the saxophonist ready? I know you'd have been ready some time now, so please go ahead. The saxophone is ready, or the person is preparing? Ready?
Trying to bring up back the track that I have.
Okay, all right. And of course,
all right, so
giveaways will take place afterwards. So please, Mrs. Sophia Haynes McCullough, just be ready immediately after to do a giveaway. We'll try to have the giveaways at the end. All right, let's go. Go ahead.
All right, so I've been listening on, and especially when they said that if you ever decide that you wanted to try a different thing other than sports, I can somewhat rationalize with you for the athletes, because the same thing happens for musicians, where what you chose, and that's people might not necessarily understand what you're doing. But it's a love that transcends it, that you know that, hey, this is what you want to do. And the truth is, for the students listening on, don't watch no. Like it's important, but in small line, if you don't on the
we seem to be having some issues with the saxophonist, with the item. I'm sure you will rejoin shortly. Mrs. Haynes McCullough, would you just continue?
Okay, good morning, everybody. We have been having a great session so far, but prior to what was going on, I hope you were listening attentively. So we're normally accustomed to fast fingers to put your credits on, but today we're going to be having fast fingers in typing your responses And the first correct answer will be given the credits. All right. When Dr. Adams was doing her presentation, she mentioned 3 broad areas qualified. You can be certified in your bachelor's of science at the sports sciences faculty, sports medicine, not medicine, sorry, faculty of sports sciences in UTech. Can anybody identify those 3 broad areas? Type the answer in the chat. The first correct answer. Oh, you're unmuting the first correct. Oh, I see somebody, I see some answers coming up. Ah, I see Carry On Powis. What Carry On?
Not allowed, not allowed. Carry on power is not allowed.
Not allowed. Okay, sorry, ma'am. You know the restrictions. The second question, while you're there typing, and my colleague members are checking for the responses, we had 4 eloquent and knowledgeable presenters. Can you identify 3 professions that they represented? Any 3 of the 4 professions that were represented just now? Name 3 of the 4 professions that they presented on, or presenters represented this morning.
Karen, you can try for this one.
All right.
I think we have a winner, Gabriel, for the first question.
Yes, that would have been. So we're going to give Gabriel, contact Gabriel in our inbox. While others are there checking, I see journalist, sports psychologist, and manager from Gabriel.
Miss McCullough, if it's Gabriel Samuel, she's not allowed.
I'm just seeing Gabriel.
It's only Gabriel, we're not sure.
I'm not sure who it is.
There's a Tracy and Williams.
Williams, yeah, I saw her too.
Gabriel is the Gabriel you mentioned. Then we have Tracy and Williams who would have answered the second question.
Correctly. So
No,
Tracy,
excuse me. Above Tracy, and you have Merdine Blake, who typed journalist, sports psychologist, and oh, she just said manager. She never said what kind of manager.
Right, we wouldn't accept that one.
So you're going to be contacted in your inbox and given the rewards. Doc will just link you up in a minute or 2. Back to you, Mr. Moderator.
We need to see Gabriel.
Yeah, if we know who Gabriel is, you can communicate with Gabriel and then we can see.
Okay, the track is, everything seems to be back online.
Okay, all right, go right ahead. We're just ready for you now. Go right ahead.
Go on.
Thank you so much,
No
Sir
problem.
Collington Davis. It was really a pleasure. While we would have been having a few issues, you know, and you'll be contacted, so we rectify them. Thanks so much. It was relaxing and soothing to hear, as I was. So thanks so much for your item.
Thank you.
So as we look forward to our next set of panelists, of course, we are behind in our schedule, so we'll be moving a little bit faster as we go. I'd also like to take the opportunity to shout out those who are on YouTube. There are questions being asked on the YouTube channel. So if we could also pay some attention to that and have those questions responded to, you know, but big ups to the YouTube viewers who are currently supporting the program. Of course, up next, we have 4 other interesting panelists to share their experience. And of course, we are looking at and seeing that we have our own Mr. Paulton Gordon, who is from the University of Technology, Mr. Everett Owen, an old friend of Intercal. You know, we would have done some work together there. Mr. Andre Wall. There are so many words I could use to describe Sir Wall, but I just say a brother at this point.
Yeah,
Mr.
and I
Andre,
particularly don't like the fact that you don't say our own. You know, if it's that alone, bro.
If I didn't expect anyone else to comment, I know you would have. Mr. Andre Wall, our own.
All right, thank you, sir.
Mr. Andrew Richards. I'd hasten to use the opportunity to also say our own. You know, and it is such a pleasure to see that all 4 would have accepted and is willing to share. Of course, I'm just giving the first level of the introductions because, you know, they commence introductions that will follow. You know, we bring all the niceties and all the things that they do. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Ms. Normally Grosset and Mr. Claudius Wong, who are going to officially introduce the 4 panelists. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me use this opportunity to welcome everyone to this webinar. Great webinar so far. Let me also thank all the first panelists for their wonderful and inspirational speech. It is my duty this afternoon with my introducer, Mr. Wong, to introduce the panelists. I will introduce the first 2 panelists, Mr. Paulton Gordon and Mr. Everett Owens, while Mr. Wong will introduce the other 2 panelists. So without any further ado, I will go right into the introduction of Mr. Paulton Gordon. Paulton Gordon is a management professional with over 25 years of leadership experience in private and public sector management, community development, sports, and the education sector. He is currently employed as the Director, Community Service and Development at the University of Technology, Jamaica, where his overall responsibilities include coordinating the service learning module and leading the community relation cooperative social responsibility project. Paulton is also part of the sport management teaching staff at the Faculty of Science and Sports. Mr. Gordon completed his undergrad study at the University of the West Indies, where he attained a bachelor's degree in economics and management. He subsequently completed a postgraduate course in marketing at the Maastricht School of Management in the Netherlands. Paulton is a graduate of the George Western University, where he completed a master's in the tourism management. And his scholastic background also includes Executive Masters in Sports Organization Management through the IOC Memos Program in Switzerland. Currently, Mr. Gordon is responsible for delivering the sport marketing module of the JOA Advanced Sport Management course. Holton's professional affiliation includes being a member of the North American Society for Sports Management, project manager back with International Leadership Development since 2014 to 2015, president of the Jamaica Basket Association and board member of the Book Merchant Limited. He has attended 4 Summer Olympic Games and was part of a group from the George Washington University and that participated in a behind-the-scenes study tour of the Athens Olympic Games, looking at planning, sponsorship, media relations, and cooperation. Colton was a Gleaner contributor at the Beijing and London Olympic Games, where his article focused on fans' reaction to the performance and human interest stories. He has particular interest in the growth and development of the sport tourism industry in Jamaica. He is married to Dr. Lorraine Corley Gordon, and they have 2 beautiful children. I also want to introduce to you as well, Mr. Owens. Let me bring that up. Mr. Everett Owens is a graduate of the G.C. Foster College and the University of Technology, Jamaica. He is a retired lecturer who has contributed to educating youngsters in the field of physical education and health and family life. He also taught at the secondary school level and was a practical physical education examiner for the Teaching Council of Jamaica. His qualification made him a very reliable consultant in sports, as he currently holds a master's degree in physical education and sports, a FIFA Level 1 coaching certification, and a Level 1 IAAF coaching certification. He is also a Grade 3 official with Jamaica Football Referees Association. He has been very involved in his community, holding the position of chairman for the numerous organizations and being executive member of the different sporting associations. He has also been actively involved in participating in organizing sport for his church. His love for sports has also led him into journalism, as he is presently a track and field statistician and correspondent for Radio Jamaica Limited and a correspondent for The Observer. A dedicated sport professional, Mr. Owens also enjoys sports in his leisure time, as he enjoys jogging, exercising at the beach, watching football, and going to track and field meetings. He also enjoys sharing his Christian faith. Mr. Owens is married to Everett Owens and has 1 son, Elkan. Mr. Wong?
Good afternoon, everybody. Mr. Andre Waugh is a graduate of the International School of Physical Education and Sport, Cuba, and the University of Glasgow, where he obtained a master's degree in exercise physiology. He is currently the CONCACAF Development Manager of the Caribbean. Prior to joining CONCACAF, Waugh lectured at the Caribbean School of Sport Sciences in the Faculty of Science and Sport at the University of Technology from 2011. He served as the fitness trainer of Jamaica's senior national football team, the Reggae Boys, since 2010. Over the period, his long list of accomplishments include qualification of the Under-17 World Cup in 2011, winning the Caribbean Cup in 2010 and 2014, and a second place finish at the 2015 CONCACAF Gold Cup. Waugh is a Jamaica Football Federation coaching instructor. He was appointed the first CONCACAF coaching instructor panel in July 2013, and a FIFA fitness coaching instructor since June 2015. Mr. Waugh is bilingual, married, and has a 6-year-old daughter. Mr. Andre Peter Richards was born on September 6, 1981. He has always been involved in sports, but his passion resides with cricket, a West Indian cricketer who bowled right arm, past representing Jamaica from 2003 to 2014 after competing in the Under-19 World Cup Series in 2009. He also represented the West Indies for their tour of England in 2009. Mr. Richard currently holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Sports Sciences, specializing in sport management, which he obtained at the University of Technology through the Caribbean School of Sports Sciences. A former manager of the Talawa from 2015 to 2019. Andrew presently dedicated his professional abilities to being the head coach of the Windward Island Volcanoes and manager of the Barbados Trident. Mr. Richards is married and has a daughter. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, put your hands together for our panelists.
Thank you so much for the introduction of our panelists. And of course, thanks panelists for accepting to being a part of today's career day, you know, and us delving a little bit into what you do. So of course, for us, it is important to note, you know, all four of you would have gone into different areas of sport, you know, and I'm interested in journalism. You know, I like to hear, you know, what goes on around the sport. Sometimes we see things, but you know, there are so many stories around it, you know. So I would want to ask Sir Owen first, you know, how did you become involved in sports journalism, or what led you to that? You're muted, Sir Owen, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry about that. Thanks, Garrix. And one thing I like to say before that I'm also a graduate of the Michael College, now Michael University College. That's where I started my sporting career. I did physical education and sports there. My involvement in journalism started when RJR, I think Andrew can back me up on that one. When RJR had a program known as Sports Call, I was a teacher and coach at St. Mary High School at the time, used to be involved in coaching football at the time, and used to call in that program to persons like Bobby Free, Sarge usual city that my calls go through, Courtney Sargent, and then we had Lance Whitaker, who was also a host of that program. And that's where I started. And after leaving St. Mary High School, and I went to, it was Pastor God's Teachers College at the time, then I was taken on as a correspondent at RJR Sports, and I also delved also into news correspondence. I used to do both over here in Portland at the time. And I also got on at the time also with track and field, because both track and field and football were my strong areas, where I started to work as an analyst at Boys and Girls Champs. And those days we used to have meets every Saturday. So it was part of my duty to go to all the track meets. There weren't so many meets, like 3 meets first on a Saturday. I used to travel the whole country, go to track and field meets right across from December up until April. My Saturdays are booked for track and field, and used to pass on information for the 6 o'clock news. And then RJ had a Saturday evening program where correspondents or reporters would give reports from different track and field meets across the country. So I was in, and that's my involvement into journalism, started from Sports Call onto there, and I'm still doing this, and I've enjoyed it. Mention was made about my involvement with the Jamaica Observer. I started writing sports for the Jamaica Observer some years ago, and I still do that from time to time.
One thing is sure, while we can't travel the country like you do, to go to all the meets, it is good that you do. So the information can be shared with the likes of myself, who won't go, but is able to interact and to get the information, as it is very, very important that is done. So thanks, Sir Owen. It is very important, the work that you do, and very much appreciated. Andrew Richardson. It is something, I hear the Talawas, I hear head coach, wow, how do you do it? What is a day like in the life of Andrew Richards with all these high profile jobs that you hold? Tell us.
Hi. Morning, everyone. Morning, good afternoon. It's after 12 o'clock now. Sir Gary, thanks, and everyone, thanks for having me. I'm still in shock that you call these jobs high profile, but
yes, they are.
I must say that what I do is it comes with a lot of responsibility. For all the guys who have were on the panel who have ever worked on any support staff or manage any team, you are really and truly responsible for almost every movement, other than private time. You are responsible for, and you are supposed to know what is happening with a squad that sometimes can be, as from 15 to even as much as 27. And you are in charge of, logistics when I'm doing the role as manager. But I double up because of my qualifications that I have, I've been so fortunate to get at UTech. Day to day, you have to plan the sessions. You have to plan everything. You have to plan from breakfast to the end of the day, which includes practice, media, engaging sponsors, and you have to do it all over again for a whole tournament that probably runs for 2 months. It is a little bit easier, I would say, being when I switch caps and become the cricket coach. It is a little bit easier because you're just dealing with the on-the-field issues, getting the players ready, keeping them mentally sharp, and when it's time for them to perform, hopefully you get them to a level where they're always ready to perform at optimal levels to get to the desired results. Because we all know that sport is a results business. The people who are involved in whether it be high school or if you're competing at primary or prep school sport, that winning is the ultimate, but not winning at all costs. So you still have to keep your dignity and integrity when you're involved in sport. As I said, being a manager, you're involved, you're responsible a lot for a lot of the logistics that happens in and around the team. A lot of people turn on the TV and they just say, the big sporting event happening. But what happens behind the scene, it is really, it really takes a lot of planning and execution on a daily basis. And it can become overwhelming at times because I can tell you, I've worked in the CPL. I played the first 2 seasons and I've worked as a manager for every season there on in. And during that time, I sad to say I have to get another phone number just for that tournament because the phone just keeps going and it starts going from 5:30 in the morning and it never stops ringing until midnight. So you are working 2 months literally on 4 or 5 hours sleep every day. And it is a little bit easier now because of COVID, where the tournament is held in one island. So logistics factor has cut down significantly, which kind of makes my job a lot easier. However, it still has its challenges because now you have to deal with controlling a squad of 18 players in a bubble. And that in itself presents another challenge. The mental side. How do you keep them occupied on their private time? You do not want the dreaded phone call or the dreaded email from the manager of the hotel that your player has been involved in something that they need to have a one-on-one meeting with you about, but these things will happen because people will get bored when they think that they're being confined and where they think they are being told what to do. It is hard to say you're trying to control, their every move. And we're talking about, grown men, and sometimes you're dealing with quote unquote millionaires, and it is sometimes ego, and male ego sometimes. So there are a lot of factors to deal with when you are responsible for a large group, when you're responsible for moving a large group, when you're responsible for not controlling but understanding the different personalities of a large group. Being the coach also allows me to be involved with planning all the programs, and from the micro, the meso, and the macro cycle, all of those things. You have to be on top of everything, and some of the small perks are traveling. I've been fortunate to be involved in regional and international cricket from the age of 14 years old. I'm blessed to say, that I've probably never worked in my life. I hope my wife isn't listening to this. I have never worked in my life because, I've always played cricket from I graduated high school. I've been traveling and been playing cricket all over. And, when I realized my time of being a professional cricketer was coming to an end because of injuries, I decided I wanted to go back to university. A lot of people don't know this. I started UTech in 2001 in Skit. I tried computing and IT for one semester. Wasn't failing, but I realized it wasn't my passion. Because in the mornings when I got up and to go to class felt like punishment. My time in FOSS, the Caribbean School of Sports Science, I never felt like I was coming to school. I felt like, I had classes, I was sitting with people who are also involved in different sporting disciplines internationally as well. We had people playing table tennis, we had a lot of the track and field athletes from MVP, we had people involved in netball, we had national footballers, we had a lot of people that shared the same sort of experiences that I did, and it is always great sometimes to even turn on the TV and see Ronaldo Brown, reading sports. Of course, he will call you from time to time when he wants to know what's going on in regional and international cricket, and that is good. That is good. You make lifelong friends. Even Mr. Wah, it's just a pleasure for me this morning now to be speaking with two of my lecturers, Mr. Gordon and Mr. Wah, who I have. It's good to see you, Mr. Wah.
Yeah, remember we buck up down Antigua,
We buck up all kinds of places, St. Kitts, Grenada,
Yeah.
and that another thing is good. I'm there, working. We're in a practice session. I look over and I see, what I'm a lecturers turn up. We're in a totally different country, and those are the small things that make you feel as if you are doing something positive and productive with your life. And as I said, working in sport, it doesn't feel like working. I've always played sport. I've always been involved with sport, and the fact that I've gotten my certification at UTech, it has given me an edge when it comes to people looking to employ somebody who can do dual role, coach and manage at the same time. And it is a good feeling. I say I've never felt like I've been working ever. And it does have a lot of perks. You get to meet people. I have friends from all over the world. I get up 3 o'clock in the morning and I have to take a phone call from India and Pakistan. And yes, my wife does believe me now that I'm actually speaking to friends from India at 3 o'clock in the morning. But those are things that it doesn't feel as if you're working. Because of COVID now, things have sort of, you have to, I wouldn't say they have slowed down, but things have become a little bit more We have to be more innovative as to how we deliver the programs, how we deliver, you know, the day-to-day sessions. You know, I am here now in Jamaica, and sometimes I am actually running a session in Grenada from my living room. You know, you have to analyze all the techniques and all of that from the players, constantly sending videos and all those things. But as I say, it's not work. And I can tell you, for me, it comes naturally. You know, it is like second, and it is work. So you know, you don't feel as if, you know, you have to go and study to assist a player, how to get him better, to you know, and it as I say, it is second nature for me, and I totally love what I do.
Thanks, Sir Richardson. It is really a pleasure that we could have played a part, you know, in allowing you to function.
Big part.
Yeah, and a big part. And of course, I could hear the passion, you know, but I can always hear the passion from Andre Waugh, you know, somebody who I speak to regularly. You know, so when you speak about passion, you speak about Andre, you know. So I'd have to ask him this question: what makes you so passionate about what you do? You know, what makes you so passionate about sport?
You know, what is life without passion, bro? You know, I just can't deal with people who just can't take up the pace, brethren. You know, it's what we are about. You know, and just connecting with what Andrew said earlier. I truly believe that I am the luckiest man alive. I get up every day and I do what I truly love. You know, I get to combine my passion for sports and my passion for empowering people, you know, education as a whole. And I think that is what really, really drives me. But before I get deeper into that, I just want to say big up to the students here from Jonathan Grant High School. I know Sophia is online, so I know that she has students with her, and that was my alma mater. Let me also say to all the students who are on the line, if you are thinking about a career in sport, there's no better place to study than the Caribbean School of Sports Sciences at the University of Technology. So ensure that you sign your application, whether online or paper-based. Of course, you'd have heard the dean telling you about the fact that there is some provision where there's the 2-year period there for submission of qualifications. So the passion, G, is really about people, because I really think that, you know, at the end of the day, I want to leave a legacy. And that legacy is not my name on a building or on a special plaque. It's about people, helping people to become the best that they can become, helping people to maximize their full potential. And for me, that has always been that thing that wakes me up in the morning quite early. You know, I've been involved in football. You win the championships, and it speaks to that in my bio. But what it doesn't speak about is the feeling that you get when you see other people succeed. When you see players that you have worked with, you know, Rudolph Austin or Claude Davis or Mark Daly, and see them becoming, you know, what they are today, and knowing very well that you have contributed to making them better. That's for me what wakes me up every morning, and the passion, you know, drive just to change things and make things better.
Thanks, Sir Waugh, and I'm now realizing I didn't realize why you called me so early in the mornings. I never realized it was the passion to make it better.
You know it going on, brother.
No, I know why you're waking me up, calling me all hours to wake. But it is appreciated.
Yeah, but you know it going on, bro. You know, with the competitive environment, you know, mommy teach us from very early. You have to get up early before everybody else up. While they're sleeping, you are working. You may be brighter than me. You may be more talented. You may have more resources, but you're not going to outwork me. So, you know, if you want to make things work, you know, you just have to make some sacrifice, and that's it for me.
Yeah, thanks so much, man. That's really great. You know, I had a conversation with Mr. Gordon, you know, recently. And I said, Mr. Gordon, the work, the field that you're in, you know, you are director of sports at the University of Technology, director of community service. But I saw an article where you are also the president of the Basketball Association. You know, I was saying, wow, you know, these people, they have so many important roles, you know, but I know there must be challenges also. So, Sir Gordon, I didn't get to ask you this, you know, and I so like that I'm hosting that I can ask all the questions that I want. What are some of the challenges that comes with your role? You know, you are the director. I know you also are a lecturer at UTech. What are some of the challenges that you face on a day-to-day basis, having or playing all of these roles, being so caught up with the responsibility of sports in major ways, serving the community? Tell us some of the challenges you may encounter or have encountered, Sir Gordon.
Well, Sir Garrix, not because you're a host that mean I'll have to answer, but but because we have an audience, I certainly will. As we all have been saying, there are numerous challenges as it relates to sports and development in Jamaica. I think Renato said it, that a lot of persons who are decision makers do not really fully understand the value of sports. And until we understand the value of sports and what it does in terms of equipping persons and helping the overall development of our country, until that happens, then we'll not be moving at the pace and at the speed that we really want to. As you mentioned, I'm the Director of Community Service and Development at UTEC, and part of our function is outreach. A big chunk of what I do is to use sport as a development tool, as a platform. We have so much issues in our communities, so what I try and do is infuse the sport as a development tool, as I said, to ensure that persons understand the values that they need to live by, and to also create a platform for other opportunities as it relates to scholastic opportunities and to move into another level. And teaching is the same. Teaching is really trying to expose youngsters to the opportunities that are available to them. As you mentioned, I teach at the Caribbean School of Sports Sciences. I also deliver the sports marketing module for the Jamaica Olympic Association. And now they have moved towards having a relationship with the United States Sports Academy. And they have asked me, Jamaica Olympic Association has asked me to coordinate that relationship with them. So that's another step that we'll be taking shortly. We have to understand that different literature and research show that sports is like about a $500 million industry. And it has all facets of connectivity. Somebody mentioned the leisure side of it, the health side of it, the wellness side of it. If you look at the Japan Olympics, persons who design some of those facilities are in the sport industry. They have designed those sports facilities. So it's quite diverse. I want to say to the students, even if you are not integrally or centrally involved in sports, there is some connectivity. There's some layer of sports that you can get involved with. So while there are challenges, I must also say there are a lot of rewards.
You know, something I have noted. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, because I just want to connect something that I heard Mr. Paulton Gardner. We're having a panel discussion, so you know we could talk a little bit. And he spoke about the $500 million industry. That's the reality, you know. I know we spoke about earlier in the first discussion about people, you know, saying whether or not are discouraging you from studying sport. But the truth is, a lot of the traditional industry, you know, it's dead. Sugar dead. Yeah. When you talk about some other things that we're trying to resuscitate, it is going to require us as a people, you know, to look into non-traditional areas. And the reality is we haven't gotten our piece of the full piece of the sports pie as yet. So again, open your minds, you know, it's endless. There is a future for you in sport.
And I could add to that, Mr. Awa. The fact is, when you talk about sports and sports tourism, the biggest movers of persons globally is either sports or events.
There you go.
The FIFA World Cup, the Olympic Games. When persons move from point A to point B, it's driven by sports. So if we start to look at sport as a broader thing in terms of how we can monetize it, then persons will take a different approach and a different view of what sports can bring, both to individuals and also to the country as a whole.
Yeah, you're right, you know, Paulton, because when you look at even my organization now that we work with, we have maybe 90 persons, you know, directly employed to the organization, and fewer than 10 of us are sport technical people. We have
Exactly.
lawyers, we have administrators for all different areas, you know. So again, you know, just want to endorse what you're saying and just tell the students, you know, think wide and think far.
Yeah, man. Opportunities are there. I
It's
spoke
there.
to the principal of JC this morning or yesterday sometime. And I just asked him, in your sports department, how many persons you employ? He said the ministry pays 4 persons, but they employ over 30 persons at JC.
Wow.
In different roles, as coaches, as physiotherapists,
Wow.
as trainers, as whatever.
Wow.
They employ over 30 persons in one school.
There you go.
So there are opportunities that we can look at.
It is for me, you know, just listening to you as panelists, so far reaching, you know, the impact that you're able to have. But I would also heard from panelists earlier today also about the numbers, and I've heard it from Andre just now, you know, the professionals that are required and needed to be in the field. You know, Sir Howen is traveling the country extensively to cover some of these events. I think if we had few more journalists, you know, competent that we could have, you know, Sir Howen not having to travel all the way to cover everything, but having more journalists around to support that, you know. So I want to ask Sir Howen now, for somebody who is going to come into your profession, journalism, sports journalism, I know there are going to be challenges, so Sir Howen, what would be possibly some of these challenges they face, and how would you speak to them or encourage them not to be discouraged or turned off by these challenges that they will face?
Some of the panelists already have said that, and I agree. You have to have a love and a passion for what you're doing. And when you have that love and that passion, then things will work for you. I mentioned about traveling the island. And it's important because this is where you get the little links, right? I know for a number of years when champs finish, JC win, Calabar win, Edwin Hallin, Homewood, whichever school there, I can go to the head coach and say, we need you at such and such a time. When we finish our analysis and maybe around 5 or 6 events, and we know that Edwin Hallin is going to win, JT is going to win, Calabar and KC, I will go over to the warm-up area, that's Stadium East, and I line up the coach already. Either I carry a cordless mic or I have my tape recorders here. So as soon as the final event, even before it's announced in the stadium, the winners, we have that already. And our coaches are lined up. And going to these different meets is where you get the links, right? And another thing too is that one has to be bold as a journalist, as a sports journalist. You cannot be afraid. I remember one year at the stadium where I worked in the field events area. And that's not an area that is widely covered. And you have to have your record pad, and every throw or every drum, you record that. And I was threatened one year by the organizers that my accreditation would be taken away from me because I had to find strategic place to get the information so that we can have it on air long ahead of when the announcement or this point will be tallied. And we had to go on air and say that our accreditation, one of our workers' accreditation is threatened. And one of the things is that I remember also the year when we hosted World Juniors and the technology was just coming into sports. I remember Garfield Samuels. We got a laptop that year and the technology came down. And one of the guys who worked with Jay Trays at the time, we got cable, we got RJ to buy cable. Gary carried his laptop and we hooked up the system. And you know what we were told? That we were getting an unfair advantage over the other media houses. Because we decided that we want on-time information out there. And we were stopped from using that method. So we had to find other means and ways to get the information ahead of others. and it's a competitive world. I think War mentioned about it. It's competitive. So you have to be ahead of your competitors and you have to be bold, think ahead of what others and know what is happening so that you'll be able to have that competitive edge at all times. It costs a lot of sacrifice, a lot of hard work, but when you love it, you'll just do it and it falls right into place.
You know, Sir Owen, I really like, you know, the passion coming out, the preparedness, you know, the innovativeness, and also the need for the different sporting professionals. I think it is really a fitting way to close out our first session of the day, as we will have a second session beginning at 1. And of course, we are a little bit behind time. So, yes, Sir Gordon.
One quick minute. I'd invited Stephen, one of our students, Stephen Wilson, to speak for 3 minutes about his work at Sportsmax. So I wanted him to just give up, just say what he did at what he is doing at Sportsmax for 3 minutes.
All right, I prefer that he says it in 1, since we are behind time. He has to summarize.
Okay.
Please ask him to summarize. And I'm apologizing first that we're a little behind, so we have to be a little bit rushed. So we'll afford him the minute, and then we are going to close out. We're also asking the participants, you would have gotten a link to provide your feedback, you know, share your feedback with us around the session. And of course, we're going to have 2 questions that we asked to give away something to our viewers. But of course, Sir Gordon is allowed to. But please, summarize in a minute if we can.
Steve, you there?
Yes, all right, good day, everyone. So,
hey, Stephen.
as I said, in a minute. So basically, yes, I'm at Sportsmax working in production. So I'm an assistant producer. Basically, my roles are including writing, editing. This would be for scripts and some features. And I must say I'm enjoying it. And for sure, I don't know if Dr. Olivia Rose is still here, but she definitely played a big role because I did my internship with her. And then that is where I got opportunity to basically work with somebody from Sportsmax, and then I gave him all. And now I got the opportunity to be employed there. So yeah, it's going good. And I must just encourage all students that are possibly looking at sports as somewhere to go in terms of working, whether you're at UTech right now or contemplating going to UTech. It's a very wide field and a very wide course that you can have a lot of opportunities to find out what you want to do in sports and ensure that you have the passion. So yeah, thank you.
Sergi, I'm not so sure it's the same set of students that we're going to be speaking in the session. So if you just give me 20 seconds, let me just give my parting word to these students.
Hello, go right ahead.
Thank you so much. So be brave, be bold. You know, it comes from passion. If this is what you truly want to do, then you're not going to be happy unless you're doing it. So step out in faith, think big, think about creating, think about collaborating, think also about, you know, the fact that we are global people. Rashid work for UEFA. You know, the UEFA Champions League, the Euro. You know, I'm at CONCACAF. There is really no boundaries. So don't be restricted by, you know, the people who are restricted by their minds, just keeping them on our little Jamaica 14 parishes. All right. So all the best to you. And again, if you want to study this, CSOSS is a place for you.
Thanks so much, Sir Wah. I think it is so fitting. You closed out nicely. You know, I'm happy I gave you the 20 seconds. So of course, I want to say thank you to all the panelists. Sorry for rushing a little bit, Sir Richardson. It was definitely a pleasure, Sir Owen. It is always a pleasure. Sir Gordon, you know, always a pleasure sharing Sir Wah, you know, all our own. So thank you so much. We are just going to close out this session, of course, by allowing the 2 questions to be asked, and then of course we'll have the prize. Quickly, I think we might have to stick to 1, and then of course we'll have our vote of thanks by Dr. Sanderson, our program director at the Caribbean School. So without further ado, let us have the question quickly, and then of course we'll have the vote of thanks and we'll wrap up this session.
Okay, the question is, Garis, is what is Paulton Gordon job at UTech? What is his position? To type,
Remember, type quickly in the chat.
In the chat.
All right, you could ask the second one. You could ask the second one since we are moving so quickly. And carry on, Poe is not allowed. I see the answer in the chat. We
Okay, she's not allowed. Hold on. How can one gain experience? It was said in the earlier. How can one gain experience?
I see there is Letitia. I think Letitia is also not allowed to.
Allowed. What about Marlene?
Marlene is allowed, I believe.
And Davia Green?
Allowed.
Okay. Sheldon?
So,
Sheldon is allowed for the second question?
I just know who aren't. Sheldon is not.
All right.
So
okay, Sheldon
so
is okay, right.
Please contact Sheldon and the first person, Marlene, right? That's the first person who responded.
I think so.
Yes.
Right. So we could just look back through the chat and
Marlene or Davia Green and Marlene.
All right. So please make contact and get your Dr. Sanderson. You're up. Please go right ahead and close out for us this first session.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to use this opportunity to thank you all so much for being here, especially on your Labor Day. But specifically, I want to extend thanks to the coordinators of this workshop. Thanks to our host, Mr. Garrix, for doing an excellent job. Thanks to our Dean and Vice Dean for joining us, our head of school, Dr. Winter Adams, for that excellent presentation. It was inspiring for me, and I hope the same thing for you. Thanks to our panelists who, were so dynamic and engaging. Dr. Olivia Rose, Mr. Gabriel McTeer, Mr. Renata Brown, Mr. Rashid Hall, Mr. Andre Waugh, Mr. Everett Owen, Mr. Andrew Richardson, and lastly, Mr. Paulton Gordon. But just, some takeaway from the discussion here. Mr. Hall has shown us that, our career paths will change over time. Remember, at one point, he wanted to push the handcart when he really didn't understand himself. And look at where he is today. He's also shown you the importance, of volunteering as you tread your career paths. And UTech recognizes that. And that's why in every course of study that we offer, students must do community service. Mr. Renata Brown has shown you that sometimes your career paths will come to you as it did for him, but it means that you still have to be prepared. And he had gone and gotten himself educated so that when the opportunities came to him, he was prepared to take them on. Mr. Richardson also mentioned the competitive edge that you could be afforded when you get yourselves certified. And he pointed out something crucial, that when you're doing what you love, then it's really not, work after all. Mr. McTeer was very important in pointing out the benefits of sports and exercising. And when he mentioned his 103-year-old grandmother who was still doing her exercise, I hope that you left today, feeling a little badly if you're not doing as much and you want to take on this, especially as exercise is very important in this pandemic, just to deal with some of the stress that we may encounter. Mr. Gordon would have pointed out that, sports is vital in the development of our country. Mr. Owen again affirmed that you must have a passion for what you do, and you must be bold, when you're passionate about what you're doing. And when you come to UTech and you see that we have you doing presentations, standing before your classmates, it's a training that we're giving you from early to prepare for your career so that you may seize opportunities. Mr. Waugh, who was just so passionate in leaving, an excellent last word, who is telling you about his passion for sports and empowering, our youths. And he also emphasized, and I must agree with him, that there's no better place to further your tertiary level education than here at UTech in sports sciences. Dr. Olivia Rose would have pointed out the challenges of being a sports psychologist, but what is important is that she has shown you the value of charting new paths despite the challenges. And there are a lot of careers available in sports. You must chart these new paths. So I thank you all so much for joining us today on Labor Day. And I'm going to leave you with the Bible verse from Dr. Winter Adams' presentation to write the vision and make it plain. And I just hope that, you'll write your desires for yourself, your careers, review it every now and again, keep it in mind, and all the very best. And thanks once again for being with us.
Thanks so much, Dr. Sanderson. Thanks so much, everyone, for participating. It was really good having you, hosting you. And of course, we're going to close out. And of course, feel free to connect for the 1 p.m. session, those who have the time and want to hear a little bit more. All right, thanks everyone for participating, organizing committee, dean, vice dean, head of school, panelists, all of you, participants alike. Thanks for sharing with us on this your Labor Day that you could have been otherwise engaged. Thanks so much, and that's goodbye from us for the first session.